Dakota's sports alternative. Fox Sports Radio 1410. KDKT Beulah, Bismarck, Dickinson. A service of the Digital Syndicate Network.
And now, Fox Friday Night Live.
Good evening, everyone. It is 9:02 p.m. and it's Friday night, live from the DSN Radio Ranch and Fox Sports Radio 1410. This is Friday Night Live. I'm Jim, your host. Joining me shortly will be the voice of sports. Here's Fox Sports Radio 1410, Jeff Baranek. Well, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have a very, very special guest with us, Wayne Allyn Root. Mr. Root is the vice presidential candidate of the National Libertarian Party. Moreover, Fox Sports Radio 1410 is pleased to be a part of DSN's Democracy in America initiative. We're going to dispense with a lot of our usual formalities and move on to our interview with Wayne Allyn Root. Mr. Root is a businessman, author, television producer, and some of our listeners may in fact recognize Mr. Root because he was a familiar face on the Financial News Network some time back. It's now part of CNBC. Good evening, Mr. Root. Welcome to Friday Night Live here at Fox Sports Radio 1410.
Good evening, Jim. It's great to be with you tonight.
It's a real pleasure to have you as our special guest, as our first national figure in the DSN's Democracy in America initiative. What I'd like to do tonight, if it meets with your approval, is just briefly focus on the National Libertarian Party for the first part of the interview, and then secondly, talk a little bit about you, and then third, use the bulk of our time to talk about issues and what you see in the future for this great country of ours, United States of America.
Sure. Let me give you the website, first of all, websites for all of your listeners in case they want to learn more and go in depth. It's root4america.com, root like tree root, ROOT, for America.com. That's my website. You'll see videos, audios, radio interviews, TV interviews, all my opinions on every issue possible, my biography, you name it, anything you want to learn about my life, my wife, my family, it's all there. And my running mate is former United States Congressman Bob Barr. He is the presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party. His website is bobbarr2008.com. That's Bob Barr, BARR 2008.com.
So much of the political coverage in the national media has focused on the two dominant political parties, yet the Libertarian Party has been around for quite some time. Could you briefly tell us when the Libertarian Party came into being and what its core principles are?
Well, first of all, let me state that this is a serious third-party run. Our campaign manager was Ross Perot's campaign manager in both 92 and 96. In 92, under his tutelage, Ross Perot got 19 million votes, and at various times was leading in the national polls for President of the United States. So we certainly have a serious campaign manager and strategist who knows how to run a good campaign. The Libertarian Party will have ballot access in most probably 48, maybe outside shot at 50 states, but most probably 48 states, and that makes us America's third party, the only one with that kind of ballot access, meaning when you walk into the voting booth, you'll see our name in 48 states or more. And right now at this moment, Bob Barr and Wayne Root are polling between 6 and 8% in the national polls, which means we're getting between 7 and 9 million votes at this moment, and we've only just barely touched the surface. We've just started campaigning. We just got the nomination a little over 8 weeks ago, and just now raising funds, and we're already at 6 to 8% in national polls, and as high as double digits, 10% in New Hampshire, 9% in my home state of Nevada. So it's a very, very serious third-party run. And if you want to know what Libertarian Party really means, what I would tell you is the Republican Party and the Democratic Party really are out of the mainstream. You know, most voters say they're looking, desperately searching for a third-party alternative. They can't stand what the Republicans and Democrats have to offer. If you vote for John McCain, it's 4 more years of war and 4 more years of George Bush. And if you vote for Barack Obama, I like to call it 4 more years of Karl Marx. The most liberal, socialist economic policies I've ever seen of any major mainstream candidate in the history of America are Barack Obama's policies. They're worse than George McGovern. So far to the left of George McGovern and Jimmy Carter and Teddy Kennedy and Edmund Muskie and John Kerry and Michael Dukakis and every liberal Democrat who the United States voters have repudiated. So there's no good choices out there. If you want both economic freedom, meaning freedom of the wallet and the pocketbook, and personal freedom in your bedroom to do what you want to do without the government interfering, there's only one party. One way to choose, and that's the Libertarian Party. We stand for choice. We stand for freedom. We stand for, individual rights. We stand for states' rights. We want any law out there to be on the state and local level where it's closer to the people. Much better when you talk about controversial issues in America today. Always let them get decided on the state level, because the people in North Dakota or South Dakota or California or New Hampshire know better than the federal government. If you like what I have to say, there's only one choice, and that's to vote Libertarian for Bob Barr and Wayne Root.
Has ballot access been a major issue? I mean, the dominant political parties sort of get a pass on that. I'm familiar with the election laws in North Dakota, and not so familiar with the other, with the remainder of the states. But from my experience and knowledge, it's pretty easy for the Democrats and Republicans to have their candidates placed in the ballot. How big of an issue was ballot access for the Libertarian Party?
It's just another barrier that the two major parties and the major party system puts in place to discourage third parties. They just don't want that voice. McCain-Feingold was another barrier they put in place, that the average person can only donate a maximum of $2,300 to a political campaign. Well, that's because they put that in place, John McCain, the architect of it, because the big parties, Republicans and Democrats, they have unlimited people, millions of people in big cities on the East Coast and the West Coast, mostly, who will write you a $2,300 check. But they know that libertarians have a limit, a ceiling. There aren't that many people willing to contribute to a third party that kind of money. But there could easily be one person, like a Ross Perot, who could finance an entire libertarian major campaign for president, vice president, U.S. senator. Someone could say, I like what that Wayne Root has to say, and I'm willing to give him $1 million. Well, McCain-Feingold made sure that couldn't happen. You got to raise your money in $100 and $500 and $2,300 increments. You can't do it in one foul swoop with some rich guy writing you $1 million check. Why was that put into place? Specifically to hurt third parties' chances, and that's the same thing with ballot access. Very difficult. We waste our time and our energy just getting on the ballot while Republicans and Democrats are out campaigning and getting their message out. So those are all things that we contend with, but I'll tell you what, we're already at 6 to 8% in the polls. We're moving fast. I think we got a shot to beat Ross Perot's numbers and therefore get in the debates. And if Bob Barr and Wayne Root get in the presidential and vice presidential debate, watch out, because anything could happen. You just don't know when the American public finally sees someone who tells the truth and wants to cut government dramatically and get government out of your life and tells you that no matter what the question is, the answer is, it's none of the government's damn business. I think the American people will love our message.
How does the Libertarian Party propose to overcome some of the obstacles that you were talking about? Obviously, you've pretty much overcame the ballot access issues. If you're going to be on the ballot in 48 of the states, obviously that's not all 50, but it's darn close. How do you propose to overcome the fundraising obstacles, as well as getting your message out so that the American people have a clear understanding of what your candidacy and the Libertarian Party stands for?
Well, there's a couple of things I have to say about that. Number one, the Libertarian Party's never had a great communicator or great ticket that really is high profile, and I like to say, kind of with a smile on my face, a ticket that's high profile with a big mouth. And Bob Barr and Wayne Root have a big mouth. We're not afraid to tell you what we think. We're not afraid to scream it from the highest rooftops, and we don't even care if it's controversial. We'll say it if it makes sense for the American people. And the Libertarian Party's never had that before, and I like to compare it to Barry Goldwater, my hero. I'm sure a lot of people listening right now in the Dakotas, Barry Goldwater was your hero too. I love Barry Goldwater. I'm a young guy. I went to college with Barack Obama, by the way, the first time in history two college classmates are running against each other on presidential tickets. We both graduated class of '83, Columbia. So I just turned a couple days ago 47 years old on July 20th. So I'm a young guy. I was 3 years old when I first handed out literature for Barry Goldwater at train stations in New York, where I grew up, in my father's arms. And I love Barry Goldwater. But having said that, he lost in a landslide. Ronald Reagan took the exact same message, but he was a great communicator, and he won in 2 landslides. And I use that as an example because I believe that you take the libertarian message and you put it in the mouth of a Bob Barr and a Wayne Root, and I think we will break through the clutter and we will get all-time record libertarian votes, and I think we'll take a 0 chance of winning with any other candidate, any other ticket on the libertarian line. And I think we could turn it into possibly, if we won, it would be the greatest upset in American political history. If we don't win, if we fall short, we'll build a foundation, and I'm a young guy who's planning to run for many years to come for President of the United States, and you may